Foreclosures, and I'm not talking about how to buy one. By the end of this video, I'm going to answer what you want to know about having a foreclosure. More importantly, if you or your customer can qualify with a previous foreclosure showing up on credit. Just like my other videos, I'm going to give you the answer right now so you don't have to wait until the end just to find out. And of course, later on in the video, I'll explain these more in detail for those who want just a little bit more education about this particular topic. All right, so you ready? Here's the answer, maybe. For any loan type that is underwritten with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines, that answer is, you guessed it, no, not right now. So it depends, and that's the answer. It depends on what type of foreclosure it was, and if it was a deed in lieu or maybe even a short sale. It also depends on the type of loan it could be. Now, what am I talking about? It's not necessarily a yes or no answer. There's plenty in between that needs to be considered. So it depends on also what you're trying to do and when. Now, there's no solution. Keep this in mind. I'll give you an example. There's no solution for having foreclosure. There are just alternatives to try to work with. Now, since you're still watching this video, this tells me that you want to know more about the details, especially when you or your customer might be able to qualify for that new purchase. Now, before we get down to the details, if you like this video so far, hit the like button and please consider subscribing so you can help others find the right answers. All right, so just like in all the other videos, well, most of them, we're always going to be talking about the most two common loan types. That's going to be conventional and FHA. If you're planning to purchase a home using conventional financing, there's a period of seasoning. Let's just call it a waiting period, and that waiting period is going to be 7 years. The start date is based on the date the deed was transferred. This sometimes can also be found on the credit report. However, the date on the date of transfer on the credit report may not be correct. I would recommend that you go to the county records or the appraisal website and search that particular address. It's all public knowledge, so be prepared to do a little bit of homework. It's not rocket science, and there's also a thing called, the internet, where you can simply go to, a county appraisal district and you can find out the deed history of this particular property. Or a sure way to do it is have a title company that you work with, pull the deed to that property, and they can tell you when that foreclosure was complete. They'll have all the signatures. You get a copy of the deed, which I highly recommend anyway, because you're going to have to get that over to your underwriter. So, but also I'd be very cautious with a customer that doesn't mention, having a foreclosure. Sometimes they forget to mention it or during the application, and sometimes it happens when the loan officer forgets to even ask. I'm guilty of that just only one time. So it's everyone's job to work together to make sure that you find out all the stops before getting too far into the process. I know it's happened to me once, and I regret it. And the day it happened a couple of years ago, but I remember it was like yesterday. So I make sure that I do everything I can to prevent that from happening. Now, there are some people out there who are also going to tell you, no, that's not right. It's not 7 years. There's some people that are going to say that, hey, you can wait 3 years. And that's what's called extenuating circumstances. Remember, at this point, we're talking about a conventional loan. That is true, and they are right. However, 9 times out of 10, these extenuating circumstances aren't going to apply to you. Plus, if they did apply to you, you're going to have to come up with a minimum down payment of 10%, which also slims down those chances even further. Now, think about it. When there's a foreclosure on credit, this usually means that you miss payments due to lack of funds. And if you do qualify for the extenuating circumstances, it's going to be super tough because you miss payments, for being sick or something or lost your job. But here, that 10% is really going to be tough. It's tough for anybody at this point in time. So let me give you an example. If a foreclosure shows up on credit, hypothetically, with that has a completion date or a deed of transfer date, I should say, of January 2018. This means that they would have to wait 7 years before they would actually be able to purchase, and that would be December 2025. Now, it doesn't matter how much down payment you have, your loan is not getting approved. It doesn't matter if you have a cosigner, your loan's not getting approved because you can't be on the loan since you or your customer carries that foreclosure. So don't let anybody else tell you different, and don't get yourself in that situation. Here, if you have a cosigner, that cosigner could have a primary residence. And if having a cosigner has a primary residence, then this would actually be a purchase for an investment property. This really compounds the problem. And there's different rules that are going to apply to this that we're not going to get into, but there's no way that somebody with a foreclosure can actually purchase a home with a cosigner. They can't be on it. And if somebody else was on that loan that was foreclosed on, say a spouse or a friend that you bought a house with, they can't be on there either. So remember, get this information, listen to this information, and don't believe anything anybody says. Look it up for yourself. Now, on an FHA loan, the waiting period is only 3 years. It's better than 7, right? On conventional, there are also extenuating circumstances, but once again, 9 times out of 10, these aren't going to apply to you. And if you have extenuating circumstances, what I do is call an experienced lender or just call myself, send me some comments, that way we can see what those extenuating circumstances are. Now, if you go with an FHA loan, there's something here that you have to consider, and that's the FHA county loan limit. Here in Texas, the county loan limit for an FHA loan is going to be $331,760. And here's the example. If you're trying to buy a $360,000 home, that means you have to put the down payment of the difference, which in this case is $28,240. That's going to be super tough because you had a foreclosure. Once again, we're talking about that 10%. Here's a little curveball for you, because there might be a light of the end of the tunnel with this particular set of foreclosures. If you have a foreclosure, a deed in lieu, or a charge off of a mortgage or a pre-foreclosure, the waiting period is actually shortened down. This is on conventional loan again. All right, we're going back to that. With the proper documentation, if you have a bankruptcy and a foreclosure, you could actually go with the date the bankruptcy was discharged. You have to have the proper documentation. So if you actually have a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, and then a foreclosure, you can back that up on, with the bankruptcy to actually have the date that you can actually start looking for a home, or your 7-year waiting period, or the 3 years. So I hope I was able to fill in some of the blanks, and don't forget to check out the other videos where I, of course, go into more detail and answer just about everything you'll need to know about foreclosures or bankruptcies. Anything else that you can think of about purchasing a home, they'll all be there in the library. Don't forget to hit the like button if you found some value, and I help fill in some of the blanks for you. And please consider subscribing. Whew, man, what was that? 50 takes? More like 150.